Phoenix Ikner, a name now etched in the annals of tragedy, was once known as Christian Gunnar Eriksson. This seemingly simple fact, a change in name, belies a complex and tumultuous past. A past marked by a bitter custody dispute that spanned continents, allegations of parental alienation, and the ever-present weight of mental health challenges. This is the story of a young man caught in the crossfire of a broken family, his life forever altered by the choices made by adults. Phoenix's journey began like that of many children, nestled within the embrace of a family. However, the idyllic image of childhood was shattered when his parents separated, setting in motion a chain of events that would irrevocably shape his life. The separation evolved into a bitter custody battle, a struggle for control over a young boy's future. As the custody battle raged on, Phoenix's name, a fundamental aspect of his identity, became a pawn in the conflict. His mother, Anne-Marie Eriksson, a Norwegian citizen, sought to retain a connection to her homeland through her son's name. His father, on the other hand, aimed to establish a firm sense of belonging for Phoenix in the United States. This tug-of-war over something as personal as a name foreshadowed the deeper struggles that lay ahead for Phoenix, a child caught in the maelstrom of his parents' fractured relationship. His young life, once brimming with the boundless possibilities of childhood, was now overshadowed by the dark clouds of a family torn apart. The separation of Phoenix's parents marked the beginning of a tumultuous period in his young life. What began as a seemingly ordinary divorce quickly escalated into a full-blown custody battle, with each parent vying for the right to raise their son. The courtroom became a battleground, the air thick with animosity and accusations. Phoenix's father, deeply rooted in Florida, envisioned a future for his son within the familiar comforts of his hometown. He believed that Phoenix would thrive in the environment he knew best, surrounded by a support system of family and friends. However, his vision was met with resistance from Phoenix's mother, Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, yearning for the cultural familiarity and close-knit communities of her native Norway, yearned to raise Phoenix in a place that resonated with her own upbringing. She envisioned a life for her son where he could embrace his Norwegian heritage, learning the language and customs of her homeland. As the custody battle raged on, Phoenix found himself caught in the middle of his parents' diverging desires. He became a silent observer to their heated arguments, his own voice muted by the overwhelming presence of their conflict. The once unbreakable bond between a child and his parents was strained, replaced by an undercurrent of tension and uncertainty. Driven by a mother's fierce love and a yearning to raise her son within the familiar embrace of her homeland, Anne-Marie made a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. In an act of desperation, she chose to defy the court's custody ruling and take Phoenix with her to Norway. In the dead of night, shrouded by a cloak of secrecy, Anne-Marie and Phoenix boarded a plane, leaving behind the only life he had ever known. The weight of her decision, the knowledge that she was breaking the law, was a heavy burden to bear. However, in her mind, she was not a criminal, but a mother protecting her child. News of Phoenix's abrupt disappearance sent shockwaves through the family. His father, devastated and enraged by Anne-Marie's actions, immediately contacted the authorities, setting in motion an international manhunt. The custody battle, once confined to the sterile walls of a courtroom, had now spilled over into a desperate chase across continents. The world watched as the story of a mother's love and a father's anguish unfolded in the media. Public opinion was divided, with some sympathizing with Anne-Marie's plight while others condemned her actions. Lost in the cacophony of opinions was the voice of the one person at the heart of it all, a young boy, caught in the crossfire of a custody battle that had spiraled out of control. The international legal battle for Phoenix's return was protracted and emotionally draining for all involved. His father, armed with the court's custody order, tirelessly navigated the complexities of international law, determined to bring his son home. The weight of his absence, the silence echoing in the once lively house, was a constant reminder of the injustice he felt. Meanwhile, Anne-Marie, now in Norway, fought to justify her actions, arguing that she acted in Phoenix's best interests. She believed that he would thrive in the nurturing environment of her homeland, surrounded by the love and support of her family. However, her arguments were met with skepticism by the courts, who viewed her actions as a blatant disregard for the law. After months of legal wrangling and emotional turmoil, a decision was reached. The court ruled in favor of Phoenix's return to the United States, upholding the initial custody agreement. The joy of this victory was tempered by the realization that the battle had left its mark on their son. The return to Florida was bittersweet for Phoenix. He was back in familiar surroundings, yet the experience had irrevocably changed him. The trauma of the abduction, the separation from his mother, and the media scrutiny had left him withdrawn and distrustful. The road to recovery would be long and arduous, requiring patience, understanding, and a commitment to healing the wounds inflicted by the custody battle. Section 5. A Mother's Plea. Allegations of alienation and harm. The legal battle over Phoenix's custody may have ended, but the emotional fallout was far from over. Anne-Marie, still reeling from the loss of her son, and fueled by a mother's unwavering love, filed a lawsuit against her ex-husband and his family. In the lawsuit, she alleged that they had engaged in a campaign of parental alienation, intentionally poisoning Phoenix's mind against her. Anne-Marie claimed that her ex-husband and his new wife had deliberately limited her contact with Phoenix, interfered with their phone calls, and made disparaging remarks about her to their son. She believed that their actions were driven by a desire to punish her for the abduction and to solidify their control over Phoenix's life. Furthermore, Anne-Marie alleged that Phoenix had suffered emotional and psychological harm as a result of the custody battle and the subsequent separation from her. She pointed to changes in his behavior, such as increased anxiety, nightmares, and difficulty concentrating, as evidence of the toll the ordeal had taken on his well-being. The lawsuit sought not only to address what Anne-Marie perceived as injustices, but also to secure financial compensation for Phoenix's alleged suffering. She believed that he was entitled to a substantial sum of money, which she intended to be placed in a trust fund for his future education and well-being. Section 6. Case dismissed. The court's decision and its aftermath. The courtroom once again became a battleground, this time with Anne-Marie's lawsuit taking center stage. The allegations she leveled against her ex-husband and his family were serious and, if proven, could have had significant consequences for them. However, the burden of proof rested on Anne-Marie's shoulders, and she faced an uphill battle in court. After months of legal proceedings, during which both sides presented their arguments and evidence, the judge ultimately decided to dismiss Anne-Marie's lawsuit. The court found that she had not provided sufficient evidence to support her claims of parental alienation, or to prove that Phoenix had suffered harm as a result of his father's actions. The dismissal of the lawsuit was a crushing blow for Anne-Marie. She had poured her heart and soul into the legal battle, believing that she was fighting for her son's best interests. The court's decision, however, left her feeling defeated and disillusioned. For Phoenix's father and his family, the dismissal brought a sense of relief and vindication. They had steadfastly maintained their innocence throughout the ordeal, and the court's decision affirmed their belief that they had acted in Phoenix's best interests. However, the victory was bittersweet, as they recognized that the legal battle had further strained their relationship with Anne-Marie and cast a long shadow over their family. Section 7. Growing up in the shadow of conflict, the impact on Phoenix. Throughout the tumultuous years of custody battles and legal disputes, Phoenix Ikner remained the silent, often overlooked figure at the center of the storm. While the adults in his life grappled with their own anger, resentment, and heartbreak, Phoenix was left to navigate the confusing and often frightening world of family court, international travel, and a revolving door of legal representatives. The experience left an undeniable mark on the young boy. He struggled to reconcile the conflicting narratives presented by his parents, each painting the other as the villain in their shared story. The constant upheaval, the shifting allegiances, and the underlying tension within his family eroded his sense of security and belonging. As Phoenix grew older, the emotional scars of his childhood experiences began to manifest in various ways. He exhibited signs of anxiety, struggled to form lasting relationships, and grappled with feelings of abandonment and resentment. The weight of his past, the knowledge that he had been at the center of a bitter international custody dispute, cast a long shadow over his life. The adults in Phoenix's life, consumed by their own pain and anger, often failed to recognize the profound impact their actions had on him. They underestimated the emotional intelligence of a child who, despite his young age, absorbed the nuances of their conflict, internalizing the blame and shame that permeated their interactions. Section 8. The Weight of Names. Identity in the Face of Adversity. The significance of a name, its power to shape one's sense of self and belonging, cannot be overstated. For Phoenix Ikner, the very act of naming became a point of contention, a symbolic representation of the cultural and familial tug-of-war that defined his childhood. His mother, clinging to her Norwegian heritage, chose a name that reflected her roots, while his father sought to ground him in the familiarity of his American upbringing. As Phoenix matured, the weight of his dual identity, the hyphenated name that connected him to two worlds, became increasingly heavy to bear. He grappled with questions of belonging, unsure of where he truly fit in. Was he Christian, the name given to him at birth, a symbol of his mother's love and her longing for a connection to her homeland? Or was he Phoenix, the name bestowed upon him by his father, a testament to his resilience and his ability to rise above adversity? The name change, while seemingly a minor detail in the grand scheme of things, held profound significance for Phoenix. It represented a severance from his past, a conscious effort to forge a new identity, separate from the turmoil and heartbreak that had come to define his childhood. However, shedding a name, much like shedding one's past, is a complex and often impossible task. The echoes of his former life, the memories etched into his very being, continued to haunt him. Phoenix Ikner, the name he chose for himself, became a symbol of both his resilience and the enduring pain of a childhood marked by loss and uncertainty. Section 9. Seeking Answers, Seeking Peace, A Path Forward for Phoenix. The story of Phoenix Ikner is a tragedy on many levels. It is a stark reminder of the devastating impact of family court battles on children, the emotional toll of parental alienation, and the long-lasting consequences of trauma. As Phoenix navigates adulthood, he carries with him the invisible scars of his past, the weight of a childhood defined by conflict and loss. The path forward for Phoenix is uncertain, fraught with the complexities of healing, forgiveness, and self-discovery. The answers he seeks, the peace he longs for, may lie in confronting the ghosts of his past, in understanding the motivations that drove his parents' actions, and in accepting that some wounds never truly heal, they simply shape us into who we are. Perhaps in time, Phoenix will find solace in the knowledge that his story, though marked by pain and adversity, is ultimately a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. He is a survivor, a young man who has emerged from the ashes of a broken family, carrying within him the potential for growth, healing, and a future filled with hope. His journey serves as a poignant reminder to all who work with families in crisis, from judges and lawyers to therapists and social workers, that children are not merely pawns in the games adults play. They are the silent, often overlooked victims whose lives are irrevocably shaped by the choices we make. Let us strive to do better by them, to prioritize their well-being, and to break the cycle of pain that so often accompanies family breakdown.